This semester, we have talked about the philosophies of modern education. Through this class, we have discussed and analyzed how to educate different individuals and have researched whether our current education system is sufficient enough for 21st century learning. Now we are using what we have learned from this semester and am applying it to the New York Institute for Special Education in Bronx, New York.
Hi, my name is Anna Hafler, and I will be talking about how the New York Institute for Education demonstrates different learning styles.
Hi, I'm Austin Selvig, and I will be talking about how the New York Institution for Special Education defines education.
I am Erin Zoller, and I will be talking about the history of the Institute and how it relates to the history of education in the U.S.
Having an institution such as the New York Institution for Special Education, who specify for children who are blind or visually disabled, emotionally and learning disabled, and preschoolers who are developmentally disabled, this institution defines education a lot differently than most educational institutions. The New York Institution for Special Education has some behaviorism, some developmentalism, and some constructivism at different aspects of their teaching strategies depending on the individuals they are working with and how advanced that student is. For the majority, though, this institution is based upon developmentalism. According to Breitbord and Swarniarski, developmentalism is when teachers model the subject being taught while the student watches, then tries, then learns. This way of learning works well for students with special needs because they don't feel as if information is being forced upon them and is right in the middle of teacher-centered and student-centered. Breitbord and Swarniarski also say that students progress in predictable stages and the students are innately curious and capable of learning. This means that teachers determine a plan for each student's needs and their abilities to progress. Yes, some students progress faster and some slower. This is the beauty of developmentalism. These special education students can progress at different times while still reaching their full potential. In the book Jules on Schools, the author, Jules Williams, wrote, "It is still possible that each entering student will be welcomed to a year of success after success in every way, and that each student will return to summer faster, stronger, happier, and more powerful than they stand this fall." This quote fits the New York Institution for Special Education because all the students there have hope and dreams of becoming to their full potential. The teachers understand that their students have disabilities, but see past that and believe they can make the student faster, stronger, happier, and more powerful than they stand this fall.
New York Institute's goal in teaching these children is to reduce behavioral and learning deficits so that these children with disabilities can move on to less restrictive programs later in life. According to Breitbord and Swarniarski, child-centered practices were based on building schools with the belief that there is natural goodness in every child. The role of these schools in society are to improve society by basing the curriculum on each and every child, but also to remove barriers for them so that they can move on to an even higher education. This overall benefits the children, but also society. One of the programs the Institute holds is the Readiness Program for children 3 to 5 years of age with developmental delays, such as speech and language development or even motor skills. The Institute states, children learn from their own experiences of the world by choosing, exploring, experimenting, and practicing to improve those delays. This relates to Breitbord and Swarniarski's chapter on romantic naturalism because they state child-centered classrooms often improve students working at a variety of stations around the classroom, and although the teacher oversees, they are not central to the activities taking place. The Schmerhorn program that the Institute holds serves students who are blind or visually impaired. This program reflects romantic naturalism as well as existentialism. According to the Institute, This program follows a thorough psychological and educational evaluation of each child, resulting in a team cooperation with the student's family to develop a comprehensive individual education plan to meet the student's needs. They are not only receiving education about core subjects, but also life skills, such as career education, daily living, and social skills. Through this, these kids are learning for personal growth. According to Brieford and Swarniarski, for existentialism, the teacher's task is to know his students well enough to relate the curriculum to their lives for personal growth, and the Institute demonstrates this very well. The Institute's main focus is to provide learning opportunities for children ages 3 to 21 that promote independence and confidence. Their goal is to give students the tools they need today to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Brieford and Swarniarski states, the philosophy of realism holds that reality can be found in the world available to our senses. The values that this institute holds are similar to that of which realism holds, such as the nurturing powers of observation, and also to use real phenomena from the world around us to grow and learn as humans.
The New York Institution for Special Education was not always the school it is today. It has a unique history. According to C. Michael Malore, a magazine editor who wrote about the history of the school, the initial idea of the school came from Samuel Wood. After seeing blind children in almshouses in the 1800s, he wanted to build a school to make their lives more favorable. After these thoughts were presented to the state legislature, John D. Roos offered himself up to teach at the school. Class began on March 15, 1832 at the New York Institute for the Blind, and a board of directors oversaw the institution. This committee or school board was originally introduced to the country by Horace Mann, who, according to Brieford and Swarniarski, was the first Secretary of Education. Although the first school of its kind, this transmissive act continued on with a discriminating act that previous generations followed by segregating these students from the common schools in the area. In the late 1800s, America began to realize that blind and handicapped children have as much right to schooling as others. This transformative process, which Brieford and Swarniarski describe as fostering social change by introducing new possibilities to the country, is similar to the women's suffrage movement that occurred in the 1900s. In 1920, with the passing of the 19th Amendment, women started to vote, but it took a long time for the world to give women the same rights as men. And the same premise got Americans to start offering schooling to handicapped children. According to Malore, the board of managers at the institution talked about moving their campus to the Bronx in 1909. The school then received letters from residents in the Bronx area stating that they were not welcome there, and they claimed that they did not want the blind misfit students there since they were blight and a nuisance. The thought of building there was abandoned, but another area was found where a new school opened up in 1923. These feelings are similar to what African Americans dealt with in the 18 and 1900s. According to Brieford and Swarniarski, the 14th and 15th Amendments were passed after the Civil War, guaranteeing protection and the right to vote for all men. But discrimination and segregation in schools continued until 1954, when the case Brown versus the Board of Education in Topeka, Kansas, threw out the separate but equal presumption from Plessy versus Ferguson and mandated racial balance in integrated schools. NYISE continued on to be heckled to provide for what they thought was best for their students. Malore explained that due to the lack of funding and the mainstreaming of children into common schools, the enrollment rates declined, forcing the Board of Managers to provide education and related services to blind and additional disabilities. Today, the New York Institute for Special Education continues the educational advancement for all of its students.
The New York Institution for Special Education is aspiring to become a program and support to the students and families in a safe, caring environment. They also want to awaken and inspire students' curiosity, lifelong learning, and fulfillment. There is also null and hidden messages that are not reported, and a null message for the New York Institute is our students have a disability and are not always capable of achieving what other students can achieve at a different institution. A hidden message that the institution has is these kids have a disability that most other institutions cannot handle, but we at the New York Institute of Special Education
The
can.
New York Institution for Special Education was unlike any other institution that we've ever learned about before. It was a really eye-opening project, and we all learned a lot.